blessings. Welcome forward to Reasonings right here at the Tree of Life. I'm your host, the Great Owl, and today we're just out in the natural environment, the vibrational harmony out in my backyard, just sharing this moment of inspiration. In the last year and a half, collectively, as a species, we are seemingly facing a commonality of perspectives, notwithstanding the differential in language, kindred, and experiences. Nevertheless, nonetheless, we are facing this similarity of perspective. There is a oneness of application in our nation states, almost seeming like one seamless action from one super state, one super oligarch. It's a interesting age to be living in, especially because when I was much younger, learning about the kind of geopolitical situations we were in prior to my birth in the late 70s, I was thinking the end result of all of these movements since the late 60s would be a reformation in how we are on a collective scale, but rather it has served a tool for a globalist agenda that has brought us closer yet further away, hallelujah, that has made our experiences almost similar, could be likened to the same, our perspectives and our outlook same or similar, and this perspective has now become trickled down like little tributaries or transmission distribution points of this cosmos, consciousness in a manifest terms. Like, this is who we are cosmologically now, and this is our collective reality. And as such, if we don't adjust to it, well, we'll be likened unto the so-called primitive that now we know that we are aboriginal. And our so-called lack of progress was as a result of the fact that we loved our life, our existence, and the harmonious nature we lived with our environment and our kindred. We didn't want the destruction of our families, our sense of welfare and well-being to be driven by an idea that we were supposed to attach ourselves to, that was basically destroying our way of life. We could not coalesce to that. So they practically killed off a lot of us. Who they did not kill off, they practically had tricks and over time genetically sought to annihilate us. Hallelujah. The essence of the argument is that aboriginal so-called primitive man was not primitive, but organic, natural, and cosmologically aligned to his environment. And so-called advanced modern man destroyed the sanctity, hallelujah, of our godlike perceptivity and existence. So as we come into the mastering of the super state that now precedes intellect, precedes individuality, precedes cultural identity, precedes subjective ideology, this essence of the super state now manifests has brought one global identity, hallelujah, and is reinforcing it like how it reinforced its so-called civilization ideology on our aboriginal ancestors, destroying their way of life. for the so-called development that has poisoned not only our psychology and behavioral ethics and ideologies and actual behaviors and functionalities, but has poisoned literally the environment. Toxicity has become an overwhelming part of human life, that garbage and the inability to do something to be able to properly discard of human waste on all scales, from the biological to the actual material waste of the food products, the clothing, and the products of our automotive and all industries related to our manufacturing. We're unable to get rid of all that garbage that is impinged upon modern societies, and this is the consequence, this is the gift of modernization. Hallelujah. This is the gift of materialism. Now it's being transposed to one global idea, one global culture, where all who are outside now can be consciously and conscientiously disregarded with the support of the masses, because those who will not coalesce, those who will not yield to the mark of the beast, will be called backwards. Hallelujah. Uncivilized, hostile, having separatist and terroristic agendas. Hallelujah. The political rhetoric is already being made. There's already a green book, a blue book, a prologue, an epilogue. Something is already being written of our demise as the rights of the sovereign logos in the individuation of self. We are losing that. We are losing that. I'm lighting a fire, so there's sparks and nice ember right there, right? We're losing the sovereign nature of our logos and the individuated persona that is the human construct. It's incomplete because we are not complete. Therefore, ethical and moral laws will advance as we are more experienced of ourselves. We are not finished. And as such, we cannot be held to a fixed ideology or to one that seeks to remove individuation or the dichotomy of differentials, because in the heterogeneity of life, or the heterogeneous nature of life, we are educated, we are informed, we are stimulated, we are advanced. So we are not held captive to a limited state of mind. It's like the evolution of etymology, how words are derived from the root structures of our actual socialized experience, our actual lives create the phonetic structure. Our nomenclatures are based upon the actual. So our pictorials are our metoneter of our visual imagery of sound, phonetics and semantics was essentially the way we were. Sounds defined the very essence of how we were, word, sound and power, manifesting our existence. And so now in the nomenclatures of the modern pretext, right, a connoted existence is possible because denoted information has to be paid for by association and again class and creed. So it is not easy to find wholesome, factual, actual, truthful information on which to advance the logos and expand its applications, its attributes in its 12-fold ministry of doing. We are awesomely gifted when we can be this. So when this is being polished into a pre-designed, pre-constructed, molded captive existence, we know something is going on. Someone started the work of the dark ages a long time ago and is bringing it to fruition. So here we are now witnessing the death of the republic and the birth of the corporation. Now we are at the corporation status, where the commercial interest and its oligarchical power of being absolutely in control of all of the resources possibly now and yet to come ad infinitum has reached to its maximum of absolute power, where it is lifting its tentacles up, as we say, in a revelation of its true nature, has to be what is upon us now. We are seeing the tentacles present itself. We are seeing portions of itself become visible. it is so beyond our spectrum, we will not completely be able to witness it. Some have beheld it in the spirit, some have beheld it in the mentation, the possibility of a monstrosity being born from our psychological inherent nature to want to individuate ourselves in a super construct against the presumption of our differential from each other. It is a divine right to understand, as we've come to know, that there is a unity of purpose, that there is a reason when you win, it is one in past tense and you are the one. Yet the law of the one, that the oneness, the divine as the one and only living, is transposed, transmuted, is emanated, resonated in the very essence of our consciousness. And those who acknowledge this in all the ages have been those who have been left behind in the so-called wheel of Tartary, the wheel of so-called progress, the wheel of so-called fortune, which is the wheel of annihilation. It's the wheel of karmic sedition. And the human superconstruct, superstate, the birth of the corporation status, is the birth of a new form of totemization. It's a new logos and a new totemization that we're seeing. Our iconography of the iconographic has changed its position from being symbolic into the tree of life, into the immortal, to being manifest as a product of re-engineering, to reconstruct the whole emotional structure of humans, to even suggest a redesign of the whole DNA, starting of course with the logos, to suggest an effect in a time, space, and in the continuum, where, when, and how, and in what way we will. This is what is becoming. The idea of this ungodly, unnatural ethos has gotten power. It's showing itself now. It's now emerging more, not just in the behavior of individuals, but in the behavior of this new superstructure, the super state that is beyond the commonality of individuated states, nation states, and their individuated destinies. We couldn't all have the same perspective based upon the fact that we don't have the same history, the same heritage. Environmental factors plus the factors of our own emotions through the mentality creates a vision of reality that is individuated as cultures, not cults, not a thought-based system within a microcosm of a macrocosm, but something that is the macro, and a microcosm is aberrations thereof. So not aberrations, actuality of how we've always been. This is the nomenclature of what our semantic structure and our phonetic structures always been. The words have been made from the actual lives we live. So when no words are being constructed purely from thoughts that are not rooted in any actual things, the end of it, the end of this incantation, oh my God, hallelujah. That is what it's all about. Because when the corporation status emerges, those who carry the mark is the product, seal, logo, stamp, and symbol. That's what it is. These corporations 500 years ago that came and destroyed our nation states here in the Americas basically started instituting the corporation status, and as such, nations as we know are businesses. So before you get all weird on me because I was so into the interdimensions of it, you know, I'm never just gonna leave you on one plane. Hey, if you don't know that nations are businesses and the people, the populace thereof are stocks and bonds in it, then I don't know why we are even in this moment thinking we can communicate with each other, because there's something I'm missing. That's a layman's dichotomy. If we're talking about gross domestic product, and we're talking about all these securities and market instruments as part of our portfolios, and the government portfolios rather of expenditure, then we can clearly analyze with our open eyes, minds, and third eyes. Just like in a business situation where you keep a ledger, profit and loss accounts, and projections, what you hope to achieve and what you hope to earn by what you've been producing, you can realize that when a budget debate is going on, it's about how much products we're going to buy, how much we're going to sell, and what's the balance thereof. Then you realize that companies have logos, nations have flags, which are really logos, which represent the logos, which is a symbolic representation of your mentality, how you perceive yourself, because within that logos, that logo, that flag is mentality. Let's look at my nation state as it is given to us currently. Black, green, and gold. They say black represents the people. Once it was the hardship. Gold is the gift of sunshine. And green represents the wealth of the land, right? The very agricultural awesomeness we have here in Jamaica. So these symbolic representation in the logos have now become the commercial stamps that we now wear them on our bodies, because that's who now owns us, because they own our corporations, which are really our countries. And so here we are, the death of the republic, because once it was the monarchies and the republic destroyed the monarchies, and well, here it is, the corporations are destroying the republics. And people will say, well, it's a natural progression of human being, our human development, our human advancement. I would say it this way, because we've been here so long, we have recognized already there are individuals who even move nation states from an actual country to a spiritual nation, but yet being a corporation, but being a divine nation, that it is honored, worshipped, and is the head of the super state, that it can now basically make laws across the whole length and breadth of its vassal states, that it can literally exist and subsist as literally a superstructure, as an empire in the old terminology. And this empire can be over all nations as a spiritual nation, or as a spiritual father, or as a spiritual master, or as a spiritual institution, wherein all institutions are registered. And so empire status came over, hallelujah, into corporation status. So this corporation, this kingdom upon 7 mountains, the 7 heads of 7 sins, 7 deadly sins. These 7 nation states within one, these 7 kings severing the ties of the divine amongst the living, has now brought the corporation status into being, because they worship the symbol, hallelujah, of that corporation, which is held above all symbols, under which all are registered, and all will be given the mark, and all who are not under the mark will be ostracized, destroyed, removed from functioning within that construct of this one world system and government. The death of the republic, which was the death of the monarchy, the birth of the corporations, hallelujah, the birth of the corporation status, products and service they're making of the living beings here, of the air, eat, water, the very resources of this awesome terra firma, the gift of our divine creator, to be harmonious and sharing it, to be caring for it, to restore its honor and dignity, to maintain its honor, its dignity, to continue as those who have continued before us, as they have seen the 432 of the 7.83, the leaf of life, the flower of life, the true insignia of eternity, the true symbol of the breath, of the spiritu, of the spirit of truth, of the living God in the living cosmos. Choose ye this day who ye will serve. Choose ye this day whom ye will serve. Serve the true and living God. Give thanks to the breath immortal, eternal, the source thereof. Be resonant in the spirit of it. Yeah? Respiritu. Yeah? Breathe in, breathe out, eternity. Blessings. Witness the birth of your true self. Hallelujah.